How will this new directive shape the future of women's sports and the rights for transgender athletes? Today we're discussing a new executive order signed on February 5th, 2025 by President Donald Trump. This order, officially titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, imposes substantial changes on how sex and gender are interpreted in the context of athletes across the country. While it focuses specifically on gender of women and girls, the implications could be far-reaching for students, schools, and sports organizations everywhere. First, let's look at the central aim of this executive order. President Donald Trump described it as a means to preserve fairness in women's sports. It directs federal agencies, including the Department of Justice, to interpret Title IX in a way that bans transgender women and girls from competing in female sport categories. This shift, the administration argues, enforces the traditional understanding that Title of IX, which has created to prevent discrimination based on sex or educational programs and activities. However, this move hasn't arrived without intense debate. Supporters believe that the new guidelines protect fairness in competition, ensuring that female athletes only compete against others assigned female at birth. Critics, on the other hand, point out that this executive order undermines the very spirit of inclusion. They argue that the Title IX originally expanded opportunities for everyone, and that's transgender athletes to be unjustly singled out by this regulation. Multiple civil rights organizations, including prominent LGBT advocates groups, have demanded that the decision is being discriminatory and hurtful to transgender youth. The second key piece of this directive involves strict enforcement against schools, athlete associations that break these new rules. Under the order's institution that permits transgender girls or women to compete in female sport, teams could face rapid and severe consequences. This might mean the withdrawal of certain federal funds or possible legal action through the Department of Justice. For many administrators, coaches, as well as students, this sudden shift could create tension and confusion, particularly if they find themselves in a conflict with these recently mandated guidelines. Third, the Department of Education is directed to investigate high schools suspected of violating the order. This means any school that allows transgender athletes to join a female team may face official inquiry. The school's officials may be required to submit documentation and policies to prove they comply with the new rules. This adds another layer of oversight to an already complex web of regulations and local educators must navigate. For some, it raises the question of whether this measure might create a climate of distrust and excessive scrutiny. Furthermore, the order gives the Department of Education broad authority to examine how Title IX is being implemented in athletic programs across the country. Officials can potentially require reports, audits, and other forms of compliance checks to ensure that schools meet the administrators' new expectations. Critics worry that this level of regulation could breed fear and discourage some institutions forming inclusive policies, when even if their original commitment of offering equal opportunities for all students. On the global stage, the order has called for changes within the International Olympic Committee to preserve single-sex category. This opens a new front in ongoing conversations about fairness in international sports. The Trump administration stance suggests that if transgender women are to be recognized in women's competition at a global level, the United States might move to challenge or even withhold support from such events. This component highlights the potential international ramifications of this order. Another controversial aspect is the directive for the Department of Homeland Security to review visa policies under this provision. The government wants to ensure that transgender women who travel to the United States for competition cannot declare themselves female to meet eligibility requirements. Critics say this mandate further marginalizes transgender women, by restricting their freedom to compete and express their identity. In essence, these mandates predominantly affect high school, collegiate, and community levels. However, the ripple effects could touch professional leagues and even casual athletic programs. By framing these orders as a return to the original intent of Title IX, the Trump administration believes it is safeguarding the rights of women and girls. Yet civil rights advocates argue this approach narrows the definition of inclusion and imposes harm upon an already vulnerable minority group. This decision also reverses the previous Biden administration stance, which had extended the Title IX protection to the LGBT students, including transgender athletes. The shift in the policy signals a deeper division in how different administrations interrupt the balance between maintaining fair play and ensuring fundamental rights for all athletes. Moving forward, the legacy of this executive order will depend on how schools, athletic associations, and courts respond. Will it be upheld, or will the legal challenges create a new precedent and redefine how we view gender and sport? Only time will tell. What's clear is that this development has set off a wave of controversy, sparking debates about fairness, inclusion, and the role of government in shaping both schools, policies, and individual identity. Thank you for tuning in to today's briefing. This is a pivotal moment of high school, colleges, and all levels of athletic competition. The conversation doesn't end here. Let's stay engaged and explore how best to navigate these changes, whether you're an athlete, a parent, an educator, or simply someone who cares about fair and equitable opportunities in sport. The future of athletic fairness and inclusivity may depend on how schools, citizens, sport organizations respond to this policy shift. Our voices matter more than ever in shaping the outcome. Leave a comment so we can keep the conversation going. And thanks for watching.